I remember a little over 2 years ago, our leadership team was praying, and we were starting to sense that God was doing something new with the group of people that we had been doing ministry with. We were a couple of satellite campuses, we were meeting in a movie theater, and God was really moving on people's hearts in a way that was leading us into a new season. He was calling us to be our own church. To be New Wine Church. And so we just followed him. And we have been watching him do amazing things ever since. We knew that God wanted us to be a place where heaven and earth come together, where people experience the freedom of Jesus and the welcoming of his love. And we were in a place, though, that didn't feel very much like heaven. The movie theater was getting dirtier and dirtier. The chairs were breaking. The space was getting harder and harder to work with. And so at the beginning of 2022, we were able to move into Oak Park High School, where we are now. And he's been just doing so many amazing things in our Sunday services as we gather together to worship him. We are seeing people's lives changed. We are seeing just incredible new territory that he's taking week after week as we come together to worship.
Oak Park has been amazing. You know, when we moved from the theater to the school, it was like a breath of fresh air. It was a place that we could gather that was clean, had plenty of space to spread out, and just the school itself was super accommodating to all of our needs. And it just has been almost like a new season for us as a church when we walked through the doors. Even though the school has been a blessing to us, there are challenges that we faced. So every single week, we, the worship team, sound media, we start setup at 6 a.m. and it is quite brutal, but everything has to be plugged in, turned on, all the cords have to be running to all the right places, and for us to have a successful worship service. It's really, really taxing on our volunteers. It's also really taxing on all of our equipment, because we are simply handling and setting them up week after week and then also tearing them down. Each and every week, our kids and youth are meeting in spaces like gymnasiums, library, little theaters, and they're all great spaces, but none of them are designed in the way that we need to use them. Oftentimes, at a moment's notice, if someone else is needing to use that space, our kids and youth are having to shuffle to a whole different area within the school just to accommodate that other group. The challenges of not having a long-term lease with Oak Park is just at a moment's notice, we could be asked to leave. And with a congregation of our size, and New Wine Church is growing, it would be extremely hard to find a space at a moment's notice to accommodate all of us. Believe me, we have been looking for 2+ years for the perfect space to accommodate all of us, and it just simply doesn't exist. So one of the reasons why we want our own space is to not only, help us with all of those challenges internally, but we are kind of hard to find. Being located in the school, there's not a big sign across the side of the building that says New Wine Church meets here. And so when you have new people coming in to try to find where we're meeting, where we're worshiping, it's just hard to find us. And so having our own space would allow us to have roots planted, signage, there would be no discrepancy on where we're located, and we would be easier to find.
We're at this extremely important and exciting time at New Wine Church. As many of you know, at the end of last year, we bought church property. We were able to pay cash for that property, and we're getting ready to step into this time at our church called Move. What Move really is about is about moving us from Oak Park High School into the building and the land that we purchased. But there's some things that need to happen before we can do that. The current property only has 35 parking spaces. The sanctuary only seats about 100 people. It just cannot facilitate our church as it is right now. And so move is going to be about getting that property where it needs to be for us to call it home. But I want you to understand, move isn't just about a building or expanding land. Move is actually about us becoming more and more like Jesus. And there's a few things I want to share with you that we're going to do during move that will cause us to become more like Jesus. The first thing we're going to do is we're all going to be called to pray. I know this for sure. Jesus was a prayer. When the disciples came to him and they could ask him any question that they wanted, they asked him in Matthew chapter 6, Lord, teach us to pray. They understood that everything Jesus did and everything that he was flowed from a place of prayer. The second thing is we're going to be asking people to commit. No one is more committed to you than Jesus is. He never gives up. He never stops loving. He's committed to us. And so we're going to be asking that you pray, listen to God, and you commit to whatever he's asking you to do. And the point is, when we commit, we're like Jesus. And lastly, we'll be asking that we all come together and we give. At New Wine Church, we love the message of God's grace. But the central idea of grace is that God gave. We know everybody's favorite Bible verse, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son. And so the proper response to our God, who so generously, joyfully, and willingly gave his son, is that we be generous, joyful, and willing givers in response to him. As we begin to give towards move, it's going to take real dollars. And I want to share with you quickly what some of those targets look like. Our first target we're calling our midway target. It would allow us to expand the current 35 parking spaces to 190 parking spaces. The reason we call it our midway target is because that doesn't actually get us moved to the building. It's a huge step in that process, but we still need to add at least another 9,000 to 10,000 square foot addition to house our current congregation. To make that target happen, we would need to raise $800,000 to finish our parking lot. Our next target we're calling our move target because we would actually be able to move at that point. That would allow us to finish the parking lot in target 1, as well as add that additional 9,000 to 10,000 square feet that we need for a sanctuary. We could also at that point add an elevator that we need to the current building so that there is access to the top and bottom floors for everyone. To reach that target, we need to raise $1.5 million. Our final target we're calling our miracle target because we need God to work in all of these, but we really need God to open the heavens for this one. But to reach our miracle target, it would allow us to renovate the current space, pay down debt, perhaps add a fully functional room for a food pantry and outreach ministry services. And to reach our miracle target, we need to raise $2.5 million. All of this is only possible if we all come together, we join in, and we all participate in Move. Our mission at New Wine Church is on earth as in heaven. This is a huge part of accomplishing that mission. We just want to thank you all so much for being a part of that. We want you to know that God has great things ahead for you and great things ahead for our church as he moves and works and partners with us in bringing heaven to earth.